All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. We'll be starting in just a minute. We're going to give folks just a couple more minutes to join us, and then we'll be getting started. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for joining us for our Transfer Search webinar. I'm Sean O'Toole, founder and CEO of Property Radar, formerly Foreclosure Radar. Excited today to talk to you about our new module, Transfer Search. But let me first just give you a quick overview on Property Radar. Our goal is to help realtors, investors, government agencies, and others create inventory, get listings, attract home buyers, reduce risk, find opportunities, etc. And Foreclosure Radar really changed the way professionals operate in the foreclosure marketplace. We did some things that nobody had done before, like tracking what happens down at the auction, so you don't have to. And we're trying to do the same thing now for all properties with Property Radar. And data, software, and analytics to be successful in today's marketplace. And clearly what Property Radar basically does is expand from just properties that are in foreclosure to covering every single property in California to start. So in terms of the modules, what we've rolled out so far is property search, the property details, which would apply to any of the searches. Foreclosure search allows you, that's kind of our bread and butter that we built the company on. Trustee sales schedule, a special version of foreclosure search that makes it easier to see what's happening at the auction each day. Transfer search, the module we're talking about today, what gives you a better view into what's happening in your marketplace. And explore, which is this incredible mapping tool that really lets you see the bigger picture when it comes to individual properties around you. Listing search and comparables are coming soon, and I will say that one of the key reasons for transfer search is it's one of the key things we needed in order to build the comparables module that we wanted to build. So you can kind of keep that in mind as we're going through. So an introduction to transfer search. This is public records based, and we include all the public record transfers of real property in California. That includes both market transactions, and that's any sale between two unrelated parties, apparently for market value. And that also includes market transactions that are not listed on the MLS, bulk transactions, etc. So if two people agree to sell a property and it's not related and that kind of thing, and it's a market transaction, we'll cover it here. We also include non-market transactions. So the foreclosure sales down at the courthouse steps are considered a non-market transaction because those properties are sold without title insurance, for cash, etc. And not all buyers can participate in that market. So it's kind of a wholesale deal. So we track those trustees' deeds. And that's a little interesting because we also track foreclosure sales in our foreclosure search module. The difference there is we track the foreclosure sales based on the auctioneer saying sold. And then here on the trustee's deed, this is when the deed actually gets recorded and finalizes that sale. So you can kind of look at both sides of that now, which is something we do and nobody else does. Other companies that track foreclosure sales only track trustees' deeds, which we now offer as well. The downside to trustees' deeds is you get them weeks later, or at least days later. The upside to trustees deeds is that they include a little bit more information, like the name of the buyer. So if you want to see who's buying down at the courthouse steps, third parties, this becomes pretty interesting. We also include other types of non-market transactions, quit claim deeds and things like that. And so, this would be between related parties. You know, husband deeds off the property, quits their claim to the property to the wife, maybe to get a loan because one of them has bad credit. The folks put the property into a trust, and other transactions where there isn't a dollar value, or other things. Maybe the sales subject to existing liens and encumbrances, something called a subject to purchase. Those things would be non-market transactions, and we track all of those as well. And I think the most exciting thing about transfer search, and one of the things that's really going to help people better understand what's going on in their marketplace, is to see the breakdown of transaction types. So here we're looking at, REO resales, right? We know which properties the banks have taken back, and now when we see the bank resell that, we tell you from that, not by whether the agent checked the box in the MLS or not, right? Same thing with short sales. We're telling you whether or not a property was a short sale because it sold for less than the amount owed on the property, right? Not, again, based on what somebody checked. Same thing with flips. We're looking at all the different types of flips that happen in the market. Somebody buys a house at full market value, or in a market transaction, and flips it. Somebody buys it as an REO and flips it. Somebody buys it as a short sale and flips it. We break all of those things out. And especially when you're thinking about, geez, is this sale that this appraiser wants to use as a comparable? Is it really comparable? I think that's interesting information and gives you some interesting arguments as to why maybe that wasn't really a comparable sale and it wasn't really fully representative of full market value. So, or, maybe it's more representative than your property. So again, trying to give you lots of new ways to look at those kinds of questions. And again, so why is this valuable? It's the what. You can see what's going on behind the scenes, understand exactly the types of transfers that are happening. You see both residential and commercial. We track all transfer types, land, etc. How those transfers are happening. Are they distressed sales, non-distressed, market, non-market, listed or not listed on the MLS, etc. Bulk, individual. And then find out who's selling to who. You can click right through this and see who the buyers and sellers are. And it's pretty interesting when you start looking at all the transactions in a recent period of time, when you start seeing the same seller or the same buyer over and over again. It paints a very interesting picture, and you can see, how much those properties are selling for and get a very good idea of what's going on in your marketplace. I think far better than any tool for watching sales has offered to date. So I want to give you just a quick overview here. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to select transfer search from the dashboard. So when you log in, you'll see this dashboard, and you click transfer search right there. This is going to bring you in, and you've got search options, and then you've got all the different transfer types under search options. So here's all the market transfer types, and by default all of these are selected, because that's usually what people are interested in, is what are the what were the market transactions that happened recently. And then we have all the non-market down here, so you can unselect these and say, I just want to look at trustees deeds back to the bank, or trustees deeds to a third-party investor on the courthouse steps, right? Lots more other details here. So transfer date is tied to this date range at the top, and we give you some easy pull downs, last 30 days, last 60 days, but you can set any date range. You want to know what happened April of last year, you can search that and then compare that to April of this year. Transfer month's kind of interesting. Some folks for direct marketing and mailing and stuff, it's fun to look at folks that bought their house in December, and you can send them anniversary cards, congratulations on 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years in your house, whatever, right? The transfer amount, down payment. Now, this is something you won't find in the MLS or most other places. How much did folks put down? Was it a cash transaction, right? So if we don't see a loan right after the purchase, then they didn't borrow money and it's a cash transaction. Because if you're a first mortgage lender, you're going to want to make sure that loan's recorded in first position. And if it's not there, it's probably a cash transfer. Was listed. So if we have listing data on the property, we'll show it as was listed. You can also say was listed equals no and find those that weren't listed. Your mileage is going to vary on this. Our listing data is still not fantastic. We're working to improve it all the time. A lot of effort going into that as we go into our listings module, and this will get better, but I would just say don't trust this. So if it comes back and says was listed as no, you still want to check that in the MLS. The MLS is still a better source of listing data than we are. Was this the most recent market transfer, right? So if you look at a property, it'll have a series of transfers over time, maybe a quick claim before the loan, etc. But if you want only the most recent market transfer that resulted in the person who currently owns the house owning the house, that's what that feature is for. Multiple parcels, this allows you to look for the bulk. You can look for specific buyers or sellers. This is different than owner, right? So if you come into property details, there's a section where you can search on ownership, and so imagine I'm looking for a particular buyer of a property over the last couple of years. They may not own that property today, and so when you're searching for ownership, that's who owns it today, right now, right? Whereas buyer is who bought it at any given point in time. Transfer search goes back years and years and years. So just because they bought it 2 years ago doesn't mean they own it today. So that's just an important distinction, that buyer and seller is useful versus owner. A specific title company, the document number of the transaction, and then this one's really fun. So compare this transfer to the prior transfer. And this is only going to work for market transfers, not for non-market transfers, but what was the change in dollar amount, right? Or change in percentage. So think about that in combination with flips. So show me flips where, there was a more than 30% increase in price, right? And then how long since the last transfer, and they did it in less than 120 days, right? So, or months since, so it'd be less than 4. So 4 months maximum, with 30% change minimum. You'd find some pretty likely some pretty successful flippers by doing that if you were looking for somebody maybe to help you enter that business or to partner with as a real estate agent, etc. Okay, so number of ways to use. You can use this to go, if you're bidding at the auction steps, you want to see what profit margins are your competitors are making. Come in here and look for the ones that third-party auction investors have resold. That one's right here. So third resale. So third parties resold these properties. This is after they bought them at the courthouse steps, and now they've resold them. Search for hidden transfers that are rarely listed on the MLS, including bulk transfers. So somebody comes in and buys 15 properties directly from another property. That's not going to go through the MLS. Detailed transaction types, which we've talked about. Short sale, REO resale, the third party. This is the auction investor resales, flips, etc. And also look for those non-market transactions, right? When people are putting their property into a trust and other things like that. So, and just really quickly, let me give you an example of how this works. So I just put in a city, Truckee, California. I selected a date range of the last 60 days. Now, we're going to have a little bit of a lag here, and it's going to depend on the county. It can be from a few days to a couple of weeks. But I just did last 60 days, and if you want to see what the lag is, just click on transfer date, sort by transfer date, and it'll show you what the most recent transfer we have is, right? So in the last 60 days in Truckee, I've got a total of 126 transactions. 89 of those we believe were market transactions, right? Sold for more than the amount owed, etc. And you can hold your cursor over each of these to get a very detailed definition. So we call this one market, but really all of these are market. This is just a market with no qualifiers, and then these have qualifiers, right? This one's a market, but it was sold short. This was a short sale that was in foreclosure. And this was a market transaction, but it was an REO. This was a market transaction, but flips, right? So now we see there was one flip, right? And a flip is when the property was resold within 6 months. 25 short sales that were not in foreclosure, 2 short sales that were in foreclosure, right? 1 short sale flip. Somebody bought a short sale and flipped it within 180 days. 7 REO sales, right? And 1 third-party resale. So somebody bought a property at auction and resold it, just 1 in this last 60 days, right? So that gives me a really interesting view of the market that I wouldn't see otherwise. Come down here, I can sort by transfer amount and look at the transfer amount. I can add columns by coming up here, clicking this button, going into list view columns, and see what percentage down payment each of these folks made, or whether they were cash transactions. I can also look over here and see who the sellers are, right? DMB Highlands is a local subdivision developer. So, they've got a couple of sales there, etc. So really interesting. I learn a lot really quickly about, who's playing in the market in ways that I just can't anywhere else. So I mentioned, you're an auction investor and you're interested in competitor profit margins. So just give you a quick look, an example of that. We'll go in here and look at Oakland. You may actually, if you're an auction investor, you probably care more about the county. You can certainly come into location and select the whole county, select a period of time, come down here and clear all the transfer types, and then just come back and select the third-party resale type, right? And you can always come here to the summary panel on the search options, right? So transfer search, here's summary, and you can see, okay, I'm searching transfers for third-party resales from 180 days ago to today in Oakland, California, right? We run that search, and there's quite a few here, right? And I can see what their purchase price is, etc. If I click in on one of those, I can come see the trustee's deed for $214,000 and the resale for $390,000. Well, this particular auction investor did pretty well in terms of the price increase. My guess is they did a fair bit of repairs. 8 months, they're not doing that great on the timing. A good auction investor should be more in the 120 to 140 days range, but maybe it took them a while to get an eviction. Oakland's notoriously tough with tenant control laws, etc. So that may have taken a while. What about hidden bulk deals, right? Everybody's talking about bulk deals, and how all this stuff's happening behind the scenes and you can't see it. Well, now you can start looking for those things. So, we looked at counties that were hardest hit by the housing crisis. We did a search where they had a low AVM. This just seemed like a good way to find these deals, but there was a high sale amount, right? So the AVM was maybe, under 200,000. You could even say under 300,000, but there was a sale amount of, say, up to $10 million, right? Because that tells you there's probably more than one property happening here. And when you come in and look at these, we clicked into one, and we do have the search where you can search for multiple parcels, and that's going to get a little bit better in our next release. We'll actually show you how many parcels were included in that particular transfer. And then when you come in, really to get an understanding of the other properties right now, and again, in the next release, this will improve because we'll add a way to click and see the list of all the other properties. But right now, you can purchase the document image and then go look at the document image and see the parcels, and this is just the first page, and there's another parcel here, parcel 5, and etc. Right? So again, a multi-parcel bulk transaction. Still coming is listing search, comparables, as well as other things like alerts and financial analysis, and lots more on the drawing board after that as well. So very excited about this product. We're really going to give you lots of new ways to see the market. And of course, we have a free 3-day trial, just like we did for Foreclosure Radar. For Property Radar, the base subscription has stayed the same, even though you get lots of new stuff. We do have some more advanced subscriptions as well, which you can see at propertyradar.com if you go into the pricing area. Our California Association of Realtor members receive a 10% discount. It's a month-to-month agreement, no long-term commitment, so easy to get started. And at this point, I will take questions. So inside of your GoToWebinar, control panel, and I should have mentioned this earlier, so to give you a chance to ask questions along the way, there is a questions panel, and you can go in there and type in a question, and I'll give folks a couple of minutes to enter any questions they may have. I'd be happy to answer those. And I really appreciate your time today, and thank you for joining us. And I'll hang on and see if we get any questions. All right. I guess everything was self-explanatory. I'll hang on just another second in case somebody's mid-typing. And otherwise, we're going to wrap it up. Again, really appreciate you joining us today. And of course, if you do have questions after we shut down the webinar, our support team is always there. You can email them at support@propertyradar.com or fill out one of the forms or click the question mark from within the in the app. We got a question here. Corey, is there a way to search for death in family and transfer to family member or probate transfers? You know, the best we do right now, there is, folks putting their property into a trust, but that obviously doesn't indicate a trust. We're not doing a probate at this time. There are a couple folks that have dabbled in the probate search side of things. So far, my opinion is we haven't found a decent source of data, and we haven't seen anybody else that has shown a good source of data. And I don't like wasting people's time, especially my customers. So I'm not going to put up a bunch of crappy data and have people chasing down deals that don't exist. When I really get that figured out and have a good data source that's better than anything else out there, we'll probably go down adding some sort of probate search. I thought I saw it mentioned that the trial will last until all the search programs become available. Yes, if you're a Foreclosure Radar subscriber, you will continue to have access to Property Radar through your Foreclosure Radar subscription. So not everybody on the webinar is a current subscriber. So the free 3-day trial would be for new subscribers. Foreclosure Radar subscribers do continue to get free access to Property Radar until we've got the initial launch complete, and we have the 3 different levels of service all available. Yes, the webinar video is going to be available online, and today, I am told. So yes, the video should be posted to the website later today. And what's the link to all the existing training modules? It's /webinars, right? So propertyradar.com/webinars. It'd be the place to start. All right, folks. Thanks again. Oh, all right. I got some more here. We're rocking and rolling. Okay, got some folks just saying thank you, and they're already a subscriber, and we appreciate that. So thanks again. Support's always there. Happy to help, and I really appreciate you joining me this morning, and I hope you have a really great day. Take care. Bye-bye.